around this time of year, a lot of people talk about how to fulfill your resolutions, how to set new habits. I think there's a lot of things that are actually concerning with some of these ideas that we don't really talk about. I think that the main narrative is around how to be more productive without questioning why we want to be more productive. I think there's just something so mechanical about how we set goals. It's all about getting from point A to point G without caring about how we get there or how we feel about when we get there too. Because I think like a lot of the habits I end up setting for myself aren't what actually bring me joy. It's just what I think should be possible for myself, or I think that I should do, but isn't necessarily something that I take a lot of enjoyment in. How do you give yourself slack so that it's not always about trying to achieve the next thing, trying to always work towards some better version of yourself? There's kind of been this interesting shift that I've been noticing in this current year, that we don't really need to be setting these goals for ourselves of these like unchanging, set in stone structures. I know myself, I change so much month to month, season to season, that having a goal for like who I am at all times just doesn't actually make sense. When we talk about goals and habits, we naturally apply this rigor to them, this seriousness. There's this natural lack of being easy on ourselves and just listening to our bodies and our mind and our spirits and just our general energy. I've been thinking about reframing goals and habits as just playing. There's a certain thing when we're kids and just being curious about the world and just experimenting. I think we undervalue play a lot. And I think it's because play is inefficient, and things that are inefficient we don't think are good. And the more efficient solution is the better one. But I think that's wrong. I think some of the best solutions, some of the best like inventions, some of the best things that people do are just around play. My favorite example is from the physicist Andre Geim. He worked at a university doing research on a lot of different things. He started this thing that he called Friday night experiments. Every Friday night, he just took a few hours to do something that he thought would be fun. And he would do it very inefficiently. He would just kind of play with some ideas that he had been marinating on. And there was no outcomes of this. That's something that was really important with this, right? It didn't matter if it resulted in anything. It was just kind of a process, something to just play with. One Friday night, he was ripping apart thin layers of graphite with some Scotch tape that he had at his house. And over time, that experiment led to the development of graphene, which has numerous really cool applications. And it actually, this Friday night experiment ended up winning him the Nobel Prize in physics. These kinds of huge achievements, such as winning the Nobel Prize, feel something really rigorous, really disciplined. But like time and time again, what you can see when you're playing and when you're experimenting is when all of these really awesome things start to happen. And so what I'm currently trying out is thinking of habits or goal setting or anything that sounds interesting to you for the current moment as making it an experiment. I think like having really small intervals of time where you just want to play with something. So like, for example, I was really interested this year in starting to do working with sculpture, and I had never done sculpture before. And I just wanted to experiment to see if I liked it. So I took a class that was only like once a week for several weeks, and I still missed a couple of them, but I just wanted to see like, is this something that I aligned with? And I could do more of it in the future if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. It all just depends how I was feeling in that specific phase of time, that specific season of life. And I ended up really enjoying it. So now I'm kind of doing it a little more, but I'm not trying to like condense it into this like structure. I think this idea with experimenting is really good because it lowers the stakes. And if it doesn't actually work out, like if you don't actually stick to the experiment, that's fine. That means just that the experiment was unsuccessful. I noticed that I want to give myself slack more. I want to go easy on myself more, especially with things like goals and habits, but I still don't do it. I think trying to reframe habits and goals into this idea of a playful experimentation could be really interesting. because it doesn't have to outcome into anything. It doesn't have to turn into a better version of yourself, right? It can just be you with what you're feeling interested in the current moment. What do you want to explore? It could still be all of the similar things related to the goals that you wanted to set. It could be about health or sleep or work or your personal life or your relationships. It could be any of these goals, but framed in a way of just, what if I tried this for a couple weeks? Or what if I just tried this for a night and see how it went? There was no stakes involved. There was no reward or consequence depending on how it went. It was just something that you wanted to try out. And so that's kind of the current model I'm thinking about, and that's kind of what I'm thinking through going into this new year of, what if I can just play? What if I'm just doing something for the fun of it? Doing something without worries of achievement or worries of improvement, but just doing.